The stars outside the viewport did not move. That was the first wrong thing Captain Elena Reyes noticed when she stepped onto the bridge of the ESS Kestrel. In deep space, stars always seemed to drift a little, even if it was only an illusion caused by the ship's own motion. But now the Kestrel was dead still, and around her, filling the black sky like a wall of iron teeth, were more than 40 alien battleships. Elena had served in the Earth Space Service for 18 years. She had fought pirates near the asteroid belts. She had faced down rogue mining corporations who thought they owned the void. She had even negotiated a ceasefire with the Vecron Empire during the border crisis 5 years ago. But she had never seen anything like this. The alien ships were arranged in a perfect sphere around the Kestrel, layer after layer of gray and black hulls, their weapons ports glowing faintly with charged energy. There was no way out, no gap, no mistake. This was not an accident. This was a trap, built with patience and precision. "Report," Elena said, her voice steady, even though her heart was hammering. Lieutenant Commander Marcus Chen, the ship's tactical officer, did not look up from his console. His fingers moved fast, pulling up scan after scan. "Captain, we're surrounded on all 3 axes. I'm counting 43 ships. Their hull configuration doesn't match anything in our database. Judging by the size, at least a dozen of them are heavier than us. Weapons status? They haven't fired yet, but their weapons are charged and tracking us. If they wanted us dead, Captain, we'd already be dead." Elena walked to the center of the bridge, past the rows of crew members who were trying very hard not to look terrified. She understood. She was terrified too, but terror was not useful right now. What was useful was thinking clearly. "Comms, are we getting any signal from them?" Ensign Priya Nair, the young communications officer, shook her head. "Nothing yet, Captain, just silence. Their channels are open, but they're not saying anything." "Then we wait," Elena said. "We do not fire first. We do not show fear. We wait and we watch." The Kestrel was not a small ship. It was one of the newest additions to Earth's fleet, a heavy cruiser built at the shipyards above Mars, armed with rail cannons and a set of experimental weapons that very few people outside the ship even knew existed. But against 43 ships, size meant very little. Even the biggest predator could be brought down by enough smaller animals working together. Elena thought back to the mission briefing 3 days ago. The Kestrel had been sent to the edge of the Thren Expanse, a region of space that had recently opened up after decades of being sealed off by unknown forces. Scientists back on Earth believed there might be valuable resources there, maybe even ruins of an ancient civilization. The Kestrel's job was simple: scout the area, gather data, and report back. Nothing about combat, nothing about first contact with a hostile species. But space rarely followed anyone's plan. 3 hours ago, a strange energy signature had appeared on their scanners, a ripple in space that grew wider and wider until dozens of ships had emerged from what looked like a tear in reality itself. Before the crew could even process what was happening, the ships had already taken position, forming their sphere, cutting off every route of escape. "Captain," Marcus said suddenly, "I'm reading movement. One of their ships is breaking formation." On the main screen, a single alien vessel detached from the outer ring and moved closer, gliding through space with an eerie smoothness, as if it weighed nothing at all. It was larger than the others, its hull marked with strange glowing patterns that pulsed like a heartbeat. "That's their flagship," Elena guessed, "or something close to it." The ship stopped less than 5 kilometers away, close enough that the Kestrel's cameras could capture every detail of its surface. Strange symbols covered the hull, arranged in patterns that reminded Elena of circuit boards, or maybe veins. Then, finally, the silence broke. A voice came through the comm system, deep and layered, as if several voices were speaking at once, in perfect unison. The translation software struggled for a moment before finding a match. "Human vessel. You have entered restricted territory of the Thren Dominion. Explain your presence, or be destroyed." Elena exchanged a quick glance with Marcus. Restricted territory. The scientists back home had assured everyone that the Thren Expanse was unclaimed, empty space, abandoned for generations. Someone had gotten their information very wrong. She stepped toward the comm panel and pressed the transmit button herself. "This is Captain Elena Reyes, of the Earth Space Service vessel Kestrel. We were unaware this territory was claimed. We came here for scientific survey purposes only. We mean no harm, and request safe passage to leave." There was a pause. Then the voice returned, colder this time. "Humans. We know of your kind. Small. Weak. Recently arrived among the stars. You do not belong here. Surrender your ship and your crew, and some of you may be permitted to live as laborers." A ripple of anger passed through the bridge crew. Elena heard someone mutter a curse under their breath. She raised a hand slightly, a silent signal for calm. "We will not surrender," she said, keeping her voice level. "We are a peaceful survey ship. We ask again for safe passage. Then you choose destruction." The transmission cut off. For a moment, nobody on the bridge moved. Then Marcus spoke, his voice tight. "Captain, their weapons are charging further. All 43 ships. They're not bluffing." Elena's mind raced through every option. Running was impossible. They were completely boxed in. Surrendering was unthinkable. She had heard enough stories from other captains about what happened to human prisoners taken by hostile species, who saw humanity as primitive animals rather than equals. That left only one choice, a choice she had hoped she would never have to make. "All hands battle stations," she said, and her voice carried through every deck of the ship. "This is not a drill. Prepare for combat." The ship came alive around her. Warning lights shifted from standby yellow to combat red. Crew members ran to their positions, some pale with fear, others grim with determination. Somewhere below decks, the reactor core began pushing more power into the weapon systems, and the whole ship shuddered gently as it woke fully, for the first time since it left Earth's shipyards. Marcus turned to her. "Captain, we are outnumbered 43-1. Even with the experimental systems, our odds are—" "I know the odds, Commander," Elena said, "but we are not going down without giving them a fight they will remember." She thought of Earth, spinning quietly far away, unaware that one of its ships was about to be tested in the deadliest way possible. She thought of the crew, over 300 men and women who had trusted her with their lives. She thought of every human who had ever looked up at the stars and wondered what waited out there. Humanity was young among the stars, yes. Weak, some species believed. Primitive, others said. But Elena had learned something in her years of service that many of these alien empires had forgotten, if they ever knew it at all. Humans did not give up. Humans adapted. Humans found a way. "Marcus," she said quietly, "bring the Prometheus array online." His eyes widened slightly. The Prometheus array was the ship's most secret weapon system, something so new that even half the crew did not know it existed. It had been installed only weeks before departure, still technically experimental, untested in real combat. "Captain, that system has never been fired outside of simulations." "Then today will be its first real test," Elena said. "Bring it online, quietly. I don't want them to see it coming." Marcus nodded and turned back to his console, his fingers flying across the controls. Deep in the belly of the Kestrel, hidden systems began to hum with new energy, drawing power that had been carefully saved for exactly this kind of moment. Outside, the alien fleet continued closing in, tightening their formation like a fist preparing to crush something fragile inside it. They believed they already knew how this would end. They had faced other species before. Weaker ones who folded the moment overwhelming force was shown to them. They did not know humanity yet. "Captain," Priya called from the comm station. "I'm picking up something odd. Their formation just shifted. It's like they're preparing to fire all at once." Elena took a slow breath. This was it. The moment where a captain's decisions would either save every life on this ship or end them all. "Marcus, status on Prometheus?" "Charging, Captain. 90 seconds until full power." "We don't have 90 seconds, Priya said, her voice rising with tension. "Captain, they're about to fire." Elena's hands tightened at her sides. 90 seconds was an eternity in a fight like this. She needed to buy time, and she needed a plan that could survive the opening volley from 43 warships. "All hands, brace for impact," she said calmly. "Raise shields to maximum forward. Divert all non-essential power to defense." The Kestrel's shields flared to life, a shimmering dome of energy wrapping around the hull. It would not be enough to stop everything, but it might be enough to survive the first strike. On the view screen, the alien fleet's weapon ports blazed with white-hot light. Hundreds of them all igniting at once, like a field of deadly stars. "Here it comes," Marcus said quietly. Elena gripped the edge of her command chair. Whatever happened next would decide everything. "Steady," she whispered, more to herself than anyone else. "Steady." The first beams of alien weapons fire streaked across the darkness of space, aimed directly at the small, lonely shape of the Earth warship Kestrel, surrounded on all sides, outnumbered more than 40 to 1, with only a untested secret weapon, and the stubborn will of its crew, standing between survival and destruction. The battle for the Kestrel, and perhaps for humanity's reputation among the stars, was about to begin. The shields of the Kestrel screamed as the first wave of alien fire slammed into them. Elena Reyes gripped her chair so hard her knuckles turned white. The whole ship shook violently, and sparks burst from a panel near the back of the bridge. Somewhere below, an alarm blared, warning of a hull breach on Deck 7. "Shields at 62%, Marcus called out, his voice tense but controlled. "Hull breach on Deck 7, sealed automatically. No casualties reported yet." Elena let out a breath she did not know she had been holding. 62%. That was better than she expected. The Kestrel's shields were strong, stronger than most ships her size, thanks to the same engineers who had built the secret Prometheus array. But 62% after one volley from a fraction of the enemy fleet was not a good sign for what was still coming. "They only fired with about a third of their ships," Priya said, staring at her scanner readouts in disbelief. "They're testing us, Captain. Seeing how strong we are before committing everything." "Smart," Elena muttered. It was smart, and it was also dangerous. An enemy who was cautious was harder to fool than one who charged in blindly. "Marcus, status on Prometheus?" 60 seconds until full charge, Captain." 60 seconds. In the middle of a battle like this, 60 seconds might as well have been 60 years. Elena needed a way to survive that long, and she needed the enemy to keep hesitating instead of finishing them off with a full volley. "Priya, open a channel to their flagship," Elena ordered. Priya's fingers moved fast. "Channel open, Captain." Elena stood straighter, forcing calm into her voice, even though her whole body wanted to shake. "This is Captain Reyes. Your first attack has failed to break our shields. I suggest you reconsider this confrontation before more of your ships are damaged." There was a pause. Then the same layered, multiple voice returned, sounding faintly amused. "Bold words for a wounded animal. Your shields held against 1/10 of our combined weapons. They will not hold against the rest." "Then why haven't you used the rest?" Elena asked, her instincts telling her there was something to learn here. Silence. A longer pause this time. Elena allowed herself a small, private smile. She had hit on something true. The aliens were being careful, maybe more careful than an enemy who truly believed they were fighting something weak. "You waste time with words," the voice finally said. "Prepare for your end, human." The channel cut off. "Captain, they're recharging their weapons," Marcus reported. "Bigger charge this time. Looks like they're preparing at least 2/3 of the fleet for the next volley. How long until they fire?" "Estimate. 40 seconds. Elena's mind worked fast. 40 seconds until the next attack. 60 seconds until Prometheus was ready. She needed 20 more seconds of survival, and she needed a way to get them. "Marcus, can we divert more power to shields, even temporarily?" "We can pull from life support for short bursts, but that risks the crew, Captain." Elena hesitated only a moment. Every choice here carried risk. "Do it. Short bursts only. And monitor life support closely. I won't lose this crew to suffocation while trying to save them from lasers." "Yes, Captain." The lights on the bridge dimmed slightly as power shifted through the ship's systems, feeding extra strength into the shield generators. Elena turned to the rest of the bridge crew, trying to project confidence she did not fully feel. "Listen to me," she said, loud enough for everyone to hear over the hum of machinery and the distant rumble of stressed hull plating. "We are outnumbered. We are surrounded. But we are not beaten. This ship was built by some of the finest engineers humanity has ever produced. This crew was trained by some of the best officers in the fleet. We did not come this far, out to the edge of known space, just to give up the moment things got difficult." A few crew members nodded. Someone in the back straightened their shoulders. Fear was still present, thick in the recycled air of the bridge, but it was no longer the only thing there. 30 seconds until Prometheus is ready," Marcus said. Second enemy volley, incoming in 15 seconds. Priya added, her voice tightening. Elena's mind raced. 15 seconds was not enough. She needed another delay, another trick, anything to buy time. Marcus, can we make it look like we're preparing to surrender? Buy a few seconds of confusion? Marcus's eyebrows rose slightly, but he nodded. Might work. Worth trying. Elena opened the channel again. This is Captain Reyes. Before you fire again, know that we are prepared to discuss terms. There was a pause, a brief one, but a pause nonetheless. The enemy commander, whoever or whatever it was, seemed to hesitate, weighing whether this was truth or trick. 10 seconds, Marcus whispered urgently. Speak your terms, the alien voice finally said. We require guarantees of safety for our crew. Elena continued, stalling for every possible second. Written guarantees. Transmitted through. 5 seconds, Marcus said. Prometheus at 98%. Enough delay, the alien voice snapped, clearly having realized the trick. Fire. Prometheus online, Marcus shouted at the exact same moment. Elena did not hesitate. Marcus, fire Prometheus. All targets full spread. The Kestrel shuddered as its secret weapon activated. Along the hull, dozens of small ports that had remained hidden and dormant since departure suddenly opened, releasing streams of glowing energy that spread outward like a net of light. These were not simple laser blasts or rail cannon shells. The Prometheus array fired specialized pulses designed by Earth's top physicists, pulses that disrupted energy shielding on a fundamental level, using frequencies calculated to interfere with the exact type of alien shield technology detected during the Kestrel's earlier scans of the enemy fleet. At the same instant, the second wave of alien weapons fire slammed into the Kestrel's shields. The ship rocked violently. Consoles sparked. Somewhere, a crew member cried out in pain as they were thrown from their seat. Emergency lights flickered on and off across the bridge. Shields at 19%, Marcus yelled over the chaos. Hull integrity dropping on decks 4 through 9. Report on Prometheus effect. Elena shouted back, holding onto her chair as the ship continued to shake. Priya, despite the alarms and flashing lights, managed a look of pure shock as she stared at her screen. Captain, it's working. Their shields are collapsing. Multiple ships showing shield failure across the fleet. On the main view screen, the effects of the Prometheus array became clear. Across dozens of alien battleships, the faint shimmer of protective energy fields flickered and died, leaving their hulls exposed and vulnerable for the first time since the confrontation began. It would not last forever. The scientists back home had warned that the effect was temporary and would fade within minutes. But for now, the playing field had changed dramatically. They didn't expect that, Marcus said, a note of fierce satisfaction in his voice, despite the danger they were still in. No, Elena agreed, they didn't. The alien flagship's voice returned to the comm channel, no longer calm or mocking, but sharp with something close to alarm. What have you done? Explain this technology immediately. Elena allowed herself a small, tired smile. I believe you called us weak and primitive a few minutes ago. I'd like to revisit that conversation. There was no response, just silence, heavy and uncertain, filling the space between the two fleets. Captain, orders? Marcus asked, his hands hovering over the weapon controls, ready to strike while the enemy's shields were down. Elena considered the situation carefully. The Kestrel's own shields were dangerously low, sitting at only 19%. If the enemy fired again with full force, even without their own shields active, the sheer number of weapons pointed at the Kestrel could still destroy it many times over. But if she hesitated now, the temporary shield disruption effect would fade, and the enemy would recover their defenses. This was the moment. The one chance to change everything. Target their flagship first, Elena ordered. If we can disable their command ship, the rest of the fleet may lose coordination. Marcus, load rail cannons. Full power. Fire the moment you have a lock. Locking now. Target acquired. Fire. The Kestrel's main rail cannons discharged with a deep, powerful thrum that echoed through the ship's structure. Two massive projectiles, accelerated to incredible speeds using electromagnetic force, tore through space toward the alien flagship, whose shields had not yet recovered from the Prometheus array's effects. The impact was catastrophic. Bright explosions bloomed across the flagship's hull, as the rail cannon rounds struck home, tearing through unprotected armor plating. Secondary explosions rippled outward as internal systems overloaded and detonated. "Direct hit," Priya called out. "Their flagship is venting atmosphere." Multiple explosions detected across its hull. Cheers broke out across the bridge, quickly hushed by the ongoing danger surrounding them. Elena allowed herself only a brief moment of relief before turning her attention back to the wider battlefield. One damaged flagship, even a severely damaged one, was not victory. 42 other warships still surrounded the Kestrel, and their shields would soon return to full strength. "Status on the rest of the fleet?" Elena asked. "Confusion, Captain," Priya reported, watching her scanners intently. "Several ships are breaking formation. It looks like without their flagship's direct commands, they're not sure how to respond." This was the opening Elena had hoped for. Every fleet, no matter how advanced its technology, relied on coordination and command structure. Strike the head, and sometimes the body flailed helplessly for crucial seconds, even crucial minutes. "Marcus, I need evasive maneuvers, now. Take us toward that gap in their formation, the one created when their flagship was hit." "On it, Captain." The Kestrel's engines roared to life, pushing the damaged but still functional ship forward through the chaos. Elena watched the view screen intently as the vessel maneuvered through the disorganized alien formation, weaving between confused enemy ships that had not yet decided whether to fire, regroup, or retreat. "Enemy ships attempting to close the gap," Marcus warned. "We have maybe 30 seconds before they reform their perimeter." "Then let's make those 30 seconds count," Elena said grimly. "Fire everything we've got at any ship blocking our path. Full spread from remaining rail cannon charge, and reroute auxiliary weapons to support." The Kestrel unleashed another barrage, this time smaller but precisely aimed, striking at the ships directly in its path rather than trying to overwhelm the entire fleet. Explosions bloomed across several enemy hulls as the Kestrel forced its way through the weakening formation, using speed and aggression instead of raw firepower to survive. "We're through," Marcus shouted, a note of disbelief in his voice. "We're clear of their main formation." Elena did not allow herself to relax yet. "Report on pursuit." "Several ships breaking off to chase us," Priya said. "But Captain, I'm seeing something strange. A good number of the fleet appears to be regrouping around their damaged flagship instead of pursuing us." Elena frowned, considering this. "They're prioritizing rescue over pursuit?" "It would seem so, Captain." That was useful information, though Elena did not fully understand its meaning yet. Perhaps their flagship carried someone or something of great importance, important enough that protecting it mattered more than eliminating an escaping ship. Or perhaps the fleet's command structure truly had been thrown into disarray by the strike, leaving individual captains unsure of proper protocol. Either way, it gave the Kestrel a chance. "Set course away from the Thren expanse," Elena ordered. "Best possible speed. I want distance between us and that fleet before they reorganize." "Aye, Captain." The Kestrel surged forward, damaged but alive, leaving behind the chaotic wreckage of a battle that should have ended in humanity's total defeat. Elena finally allowed herself to sit back in her chair, her body suddenly heavy with exhaustion as the adrenaline of combat began to fade. "Damage report," she said quietly. Marcus pulled up the full assessment. "Shields at critical, currently regenerating slowly. Hull breaches on decks 4, 7, and 9, all sealed. 12 crew members injured, 2 seriously, but everyone is expected to survive. Prometheus Array has depleted its charge completely, and will need at least 6 hours to recharge. Weapon systems at 40% capacity." It was not a clean victory. It was barely a victory at all, more like a desperate escape bought with damaged systems and injured crew members. But they were alive. The ship was intact, and somewhere behind them, a fleet that had promised easy destruction was left dealing with a burning flagship and a formation shattered by confusion. "Get me a status update on those pursuing ships," Elena said. "Still tracking us, Captain, but we're pulling ahead. Our engines are faster than expected for their configuration." Elena allowed a tired, genuine smile. "Good. Keep us ahead of them as long as possible. I want a full report, ready to transmit the moment we're clear of any interference. We need Earth Command to know exactly what we encountered out here." As the Kestrel pushed deeper into open space, Leaving behind the wreckage and confusion of the alien fleet, Elena found herself thinking about the strange voice from the enemy flagship, its confidence, its certainty that humans were weak and primitive. That certainty had cracked the moment Prometheus disabled their shields, and it had shattered entirely when the flagship took direct damage. But this was not over. Whatever remained of that alien fleet would likely regroup, repair what they could, and come looking for answers, or revenge. And somewhere out there, in the vast darkness beyond human territory, other alien powers were surely watching to see how this small, primitive species would respond to a challenge that should have ended in total annihilation. Elena leaned forward slightly, studying the stars ahead of the Kestrel as it continued its escape. "Whatever comes next," she said quietly to herself, "we'll be ready." Behind her, the crew worked quickly and efficiently, repairing what they could, tending to the injured, and preparing reports for Earth Command. The battle had been costly, dangerous, and far from finished. But for the first time since the alien fleet had surrounded them, hope had returned to the bridge of the Kestrel. Somewhere far behind them, the alien fleet regrouped around their damaged flagship, and a new voice, colder and angrier than before, began issuing orders that would soon send ships in pursuit of the small human vessel that had dared to fight back. The chase was only beginning. 6 hours had passed since the Kestrel escaped the alien formation, and the ship still bore the scars of that first encounter. Scorch marks lined the outer hull where enemy fire had struck before the shields collapsed. Repair crews worked around the clock in the lower decks, welding torn metal and replacing burned wiring. Yet despite the damage, the ship pressed onward, running at nearly full speed through the dark emptiness beyond the Thren expanse. Captain Elena Reyes stood in the small briefing room just off the main bridge, staring at a holographic display of the surrounding star systems. Marcus Chen stood beside her, along with Dr. Sarah Whitfield, the ship's chief science officer, and Commander James Okafor, the head of engineering. "Talk to me," Elena said, her voice tired but firm. "What are we dealing with?" Sarah stepped forward, pulling up data on the holographic display. "Based on the recordings from the encounter, and what little information we could gather during the fight, I believe we're dealing with a species calling themselves the Thren Dominion. Their technology is advanced, more advanced than most species we've encountered in this sector, but not impossibly so. Their weapons rely heavily on directed energy systems similar to our own, though clearly further refined." "And their numbers?" Elena asked. "That's the concerning part," Sarah continued. "The formation we encountered contained 43 ships. If that was simply a patrol fleet or a border enforcement unit, their total military strength could be significantly larger. We have no way of knowing the true size of the Thren Dominion's forces." James, arms crossed, spoke next. "The Prometheus array bought us time, but it's a one-shot solution against any single group of shields. Once they understand the frequency we used, they'll adjust their shield technology to counter it. We can't rely on the same trick working twice." "How long until we can use it again?" Elena asked. "The array itself will recharge within a few hours," James said. "But if they've already begun analyzing the disruption pattern, they may already be working on countermeasures." Elena rubbed her temples, feeling the weight of command pressing down harder than usual. "Marcus, what's our pursuit situation?" "Still being chased by at least 6 ships, Captain," Marcus said. "They're matching our speed almost perfectly, staying just outside effective weapons range. I believe they're waiting for reinforcements before making another move." "That gives us time then," Elena said. "Not much, but some." "Time for what, Captain?" Sarah asked. Elena looked at each of them in turn. "Time to figure out how we survive this, and how we make sure Earth knows exactly what we're facing out here." She turned back to the holographic star map, studying the projected routes back toward human-controlled space. The nearest fully defended colony, New Shanghai Station, was still nearly 2 days away at their current speed. Earth itself was much farther, at least a week, even at maximum velocity. "We won't make it back to Earth before they catch us," Marcus said quietly, following her gaze. "Not with 6 of their ships already matching our speed, and who knows how many more coming." "Then we don't run all the way back," Elena said. "We run toward help instead." "New Shanghai Station," James said, understanding immediately. "It has a full defense grid and a garrison fleet." "Exactly," Elena said. "If we can make it there, even a small defensive fleet combined with planetary defense systems, might be enough to discourage further pursuit, or at least buy us enough time to properly warn Earth Command about what we're facing. 2 days is a long time to stay ahead of pursuing warships, Captain, Marcus pointed out, especially with our current damage. I know, Elena said, which is why we need every advantage we can find along the way. She turned to James. What's our current weapon status, honestly? Rail cannons at 60% capacity, and climbing as repairs continue, James reported. Point defense systems fully operational. Prometheus array will be ready again in approximately 4 hours, assuming no further damage interrupts the recharge cycle. And our shields? Currently at 40% and regenerating slowly. Full recovery estimated at 12 hours if we don't take additional damage. Elena nodded slowly, processing the information. Their ship was wounded but not broken. There was still fight left in the Kestrel, and more importantly, there was still fight left in her crew. Sarah, Elena said, turning to the science officer, I need you working on something specific. That Prometheus array disruption pattern. I want you looking at ways we might be able to modify it, create variations that could catch them off guard again, if they've adapted to the first frequency. I'll get started immediately, Captain, Sarah said. James, focus your repair crews on shield regeneration first, then weapons. If they catch up to us before we reach New Shanghai, I want us as ready as possible. Understood, Captain. Marcus, keep tracking those pursuing ships. I want to know the moment their numbers change, or if they show any sign of preparing an attack. Yes, Captain. The briefing ended, and the officers dispersed to their duties, each carrying the weight of the mission ahead. Elena remained in the small room a moment longer, staring at the star map, thinking about the voice that had spoken through the comm channel during the battle. Weak, primitive. Those words echoed in her mind, not because she believed them, but because she suspected many other species across the galaxy held similar opinions of humanity. Earth had only recently entered the wider community of spacefaring civilizations. Barely 30 years since first contact with the Vecran Empire had opened humanity's eyes to a much larger and more dangerous universe than anyone had imagined. In that short time, humans had built ships, formed alliances, and fought several conflicts, but they remained, in the eyes of many older and more established species, nothing more than a young and unpredictable newcomer. Elena intended to prove, through actions rather than words, that being new did not mean being weak. She returned to the bridge just as an alarm chimed softly. Marcus looked up immediately, his expression tightening. Captain, the pursuing ships just increased speed. They're closing the gap. How much time do we have? At current rate, they'll be within weapons range in approximately 40 minutes. Elena felt the tension return to her shoulders instantly. 40 minutes was not much time to prepare, but it was more than they had during the initial ambush. All hands, prepare for possible combat. I want status reports from every department in the next 10 minutes. The crew moved quickly, adrenaline and training taking over as the ship prepared once again for the possibility of battle. Elena settled into her command chair, watching the tactical display as 6 alien ships steadily closed the distance between them and the fleeing Kestrel. Any communication from them? She asked. Nothing yet, Captain, Priya replied from the comm station. 30 minutes passed in tense silence, broken only by routine status updates and the quiet hum of the ship's systems working at full capacity. Then, finally, the alien ships opened a channel. This voice was different from before, younger somehow, though Elena knew that judgment was based purely on tone and inflection, rather than any real understanding of alien vocal patterns. Human vessel, you have caused significant damage to Dominion forces and injured a respected commander. You will halt and prepare to be boarded, or face complete destruction. Elena straightened in her chair. This is Captain Reyes. We were defending ourselves against an unprovoked attack. We have no intention of surrendering, and we will continue toward friendly territory. There is no friendly territory close enough to save you, the voice replied coldly. Surrender now, and perhaps mercy will be shown. We already know what your version of mercy looks like, Elena said. We'll take our chances. The channel closed abruptly. They're arming weapons, Marcus reported. All 6 ships, preparing for a coordinated strike. Time until they're in range? 10 minutes. Elena's mind worked quickly, weighing every option available. 6 ships was far fewer than the 43 they had faced before, But the Kestrel was also more damaged now than it had been at the start of that first battle. This fight would be different, more personal, a direct confrontation rather than an ambush. James, status on Prometheus? 2 hours until full recharge, Captain. I'm sorry, we can't rush it without risking a systems failure. That eliminated their best weapon from this fight. Elena would have to rely on conventional tactics and the crew's skill instead. Marcus, formation analysis on those 6 ships. Any weaknesses? Marcus studied the tactical display intently. They're flying in a standard escort pattern, Captain. 2 ships slightly ahead, 4 trailing in a diamond formation. If I had to guess, the 2 lead ships are likely faster scouts, while the 4 trailing vessels carry heavier weapons. Then we focus fire on the scouts first, Elena decided. Take away their speed advantage before dealing with the heavier ships. Understood, Captain. The minutes ticked by with agonizing slowness as the alien ships closed the final distance. Elena watched the tactical display, her jaw set with determination, refusing to let fear control her decisions, even as her heart pounded against her ribs. They're entering weapons range, Marcus announced. Rail cannons, target the lead scout ships. Fire the moment you have a solid lock. Targeting, locked. Fire. The Kestrel's rail cannons discharged with a deep, resonant thrum, sending powerful projectiles streaking across the void toward the 2 lead alien vessels. The scouts, apparently caught slightly off guard by the immediate aggression, attempted evasive maneuvers, but one of the 2 projectiles found its mark, striking the lead scout ship along its engine section. A bright explosion bloomed against the darkness of space as the scout ship's propulsion system detonated, sending the vessel spinning uncontrollably away from the formation. Direct hit on Scout 1, Priya called out. Scout 2 evading successfully. Enemy response, Marcus warned. All 4 trailing ships opening fire. The Kestrel shuddered as energy weapons struck its already weakened shields. Elena gripped her chair, watching the shield percentage drop rapidly on the display before her. Shields at 25%, Marcus reported, urgency clear in his voice. Divert auxiliary power to shields, now, Elena ordered. Diverting, shields stabilizing at 20%. 20%. Dangerously low, but holding for the moment. Elena knew they could not survive many more direct hits at that level. Evasive maneuvers, pattern Delta, she ordered. Keep us moving. Make us a harder target while our weapons recharge. The Kestrel banked hard, engines flaring as the ship twisted through space, avoiding the worst of the incoming fire, while its rail cannons cycled through their reload sequence. Elena watched the tactical display carefully, looking for any opportunity, any weakness she could exploit. Captain, Sarah's voice came through on an internal channel from the science lab. I've been monitoring the enemy weapon signatures. I believe I've identified a slight delay in their targeting systems, roughly half a second, likely caused by the same shield disruption residue from our earlier encounter that hasn't fully cleared from their systems. Can we use that? Elena asked immediately. If Commander Chen can predict their firing pattern and adjust our evasive maneuvers by even a fraction of a second, it might be enough to avoid several more hits. Marcus, you heard her. Make it happen. On it, Captain. The battle continued, a deadly dance of energy weapons and evasive maneuvers, as the Kestrel fought desperately against 4 remaining heavy warships, while the surviving scout continued shadowing the engagement from a distance. Elena watched every exchange carefully, calling out orders, adjusting tactics, refusing to allow her crew even a moment's hesitation. Slowly, gradually, the tide began to shift. The half-second delay Sarah had identified allowed Marcus to predict incoming fire patterns with increasing accuracy, and the Kestrel's evasive maneuvers grew sharper, more precise, avoiding hit after hit that should have struck true. Rail cannons recharged, Marcus announced. Target lock on nearest heavy ship. Fire. Another devastating volley streaked across space, striking the targeted alien vessel along its weapons array. Secondary explosions rippled across its hull as damaged systems overloaded, and the ship began drifting out of formation, clearly no longer combat effective. One down, Priya called out, relief clear in her voice. 3 remaining heavy ships continued their assault, but their formation had been disrupted, their coordination weakened by the loss of both a scout and a heavy vessel in quick succession. Elena sensed the shift in momentum and pressed the advantage immediately. Full spread, target the nearest remaining ship, everything we've got. The Kestrel unleashed its full offensive capability, rail cannons and auxiliary weapons combining in a devastating barrage that overwhelmed the targeted alien vessel's weakened shields. The ship's hull buckled under the assault, and moments later, it broke apart in a brilliant flash of light and debris. 2 ships destroyed, 1 disabled, Priya reported. The remaining 2 ships are breaking off, retreating. Elena allowed herself a moment of relief, watching as the 2 remaining alien warships turned away from the engagement, apparently unwilling to continue the fight against a vessel that had already proven far more dangerous than expected. "Do not pursue," Elena ordered immediately. "Let them go. Our priority is reaching New Shanghai Station, not chasing further conflict." "Understood, Captain," Marcus said, though there was clear satisfaction in his voice at the outcome of the engagement. As the alien ships retreated into the darkness, Elena finally allowed herself to relax slightly in her command chair, though she knew this victory, like the one before it, had come at a cost. "Damage report," she said quietly. "Shields critically low but holding," Marcus reported. "Minor hull damage on decks 3 and 11. No serious casualties this time, Captain. Just a few minor injuries from the impacts." It was good news, better than Elena had dared hope for given the circumstances. The Kestrel had survived another encounter, inflicted significant damage on the pursuing force, and continued on its path towards safety and reinforcements. But as she watched the retreating alien ships disappear from her scanners, Elena could not shake the feeling that this was far from over. The Thren Dominion had lost ships and pride in 2 separate engagements now, and pride, she suspected, was not something such an advanced and confident species would easily forgive or forget. Somewhere out there, in the vast darkness of unexplored space, a larger and angrier response was likely already being organized. The Kestrel had won 2 battles, but the war, if that was truly what this had become, was only just beginning. New Shanghai Station appeared on the Kestrel's long-range scanners, just as the ship's engineers finished patching the last major hull breach. Elena Reyes watched the small dot grow slowly into a recognizable shape on the view screen, a massive ring-shaped structure orbiting a quiet blue planet, its defense platforms glowing faintly with active energy signatures. "Captain, we're being hailed by Station Command," Priya announced. "Put it through." The screen shifted to show a middle-aged man in a station commander's uniform, his expression shifting from routine professionalism to visible concern as he took in the damaged state of the Kestrel, visible on his own monitors. "Kestrel, this is Station Commander Liu Wei of New Shanghai Station. You look like you've been through a war out there." "That's an accurate description, Commander," Elena replied. "We need immediate docking clearance and medical support for injured crew, and I need to speak with the highest-ranking military officer available regarding a serious threat to Earth's interests in this sector." Commander Liu's expression grew more serious. "Understood. Docking clearance granted, Bay 7. I'm alerting Admiral Torres immediately. She'll want to hear this in person. Thank you, Commander. Kestrel out." As the ship maneuvered toward the station, Elena allowed herself a rare moment of relief. They had made it. 2 days of tense travel, constantly watching their scanners for any sign of pursuit, had finally ended safely. But she knew this was not truly the end of anything. It was merely a pause before whatever came next. The Kestrel docked smoothly, and within an hour, Elena found herself in a secure briefing room, deep within New Shanghai Station, seated across from Admiral Sofia Torres, a stern woman, with graying hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. "Walk me through everything," Admiral Torres said, "from the beginning." Elena did, describing the ambush, the standoff, the use of the Prometheus array, the desperate escape, and the second engagement with the pursuing scout ships. Torres listened without interruption, her expression growing increasingly grave as the story unfolded. 43 ships, Torres finally said, once Elena had finished. In a region of space, our own scientists assured us was unclaimed and empty. "That assessment was clearly wrong, Admiral," Elena said. "The Thren Dominion considers that territory restricted, and based on their reaction, they've likely held that claim for some time without our knowledge." Torres leaned back in her chair, considering this carefully. "This changes things significantly." If a species with this level of technological sophistication has been operating undetected so close to our expansion zones, Earth Command needs to know immediately, and our defensive posture in this entire sector needs reevaluation. There's something else, Admiral, Elena said. Their reaction to our resistance was unusual. They seemed genuinely shocked that we fought back effectively, and even more shocked when we damaged their flagship. I believe they severely underestimated human capability, perhaps based on outdated intelligence, or perhaps due to general assumptions about newer species in this part of the galaxy. That could work in our favor, Torres mused, or it could provoke an even stronger response once their pride is wounded. Advanced species with strong military traditions often respond poorly to unexpected defeats, especially from those they consider inferior. What are your orders, Admiral? Torres was quiet for a long moment, clearly weighing multiple factors before responding. I'm dispatching an emergency communication to Earth Command with full details of your engagement. In the meantime, I'm authorizing full repairs on the Kestrel, and I'm assigning 2 additional cruisers to reinforce New Shanghai's defense grid, just in case the Dominion decides to pursue this matter further. Understood, Admiral. Captain Reyes, Torres added, her tone softening slightly. You and your crew performed exceptionally well under impossible circumstances. Whatever happens next, know that your actions likely saved not just your own ship, but possibly provided crucial intelligence that will protect countless others. Elena nodded, though she felt the weight of responsibility rather than pride at the compliment. Thank you, Admiral. I just hope it's enough. 3 days passed, as the Kestrel underwent extensive repairs at New Shanghai Station. Elena used the time to meet with her crew individually, checking on those who had been injured, ensuring morale remained steady despite the trauma of their recent encounters. The mood aboard the station remained tense, everyone aware that whatever answer the Thren Dominion chose to give might arrive without warning. On the 4th day, that answer arrived. Alarms blared across New Shanghai Station, as long-range sensors detected a massive fleet emerging from subspace at the edge of the system. Elena rushed to the station's main command center, arriving just as Admiral Torres was receiving the initial reports. How many ships? Torres demanded. Sensors are still calibrating, Admiral, a tactical officer reported, but preliminary estimates suggest over 100 vessels. The room fell into stunned silence. 100 ships was a force far larger than anything New Shanghai Station's defenses, even reinforced, could reasonably hope to withstand. Confirm their identity, Torres ordered. Confirmed, Admiral. Ship configurations match the Thren Dominion vessels described in Captain Reyes's report. Elena felt her stomach drop. This was no longer a small pursuit force seeking revenge for a damaged flagship. This was an invasion fleet, or something close to it, and it was heading directly toward New Shanghai Station. Options, Admiral? Elena asked. Torres studied the tactical display grimly. We cannot win a direct confrontation against that many ships, not even with the station's defense grid fully operational. Our best option is to stall for time, while requesting emergency reinforcements from Earth Command, and prepare civilian evacuation protocols in case the situation deteriorates. How long until reinforcements could arrive? Elena asked. Best case scenario, 6 hours, if Earth Command responds immediately and dispatches the nearest available fleet, Torres said. Worst case, considerably longer. And how long until that fleet reaches us? A tactical officer checked the readings. Based on their current speed, approximately 2 hours, Admiral. 2 hours. 4 hours short of the fastest possible reinforcement, assuming Earth Command even responded immediately, which was far from guaranteed, given the usual bureaucratic delays involved in mobilizing a full battle fleet. We need a plan, Elena said firmly. Something to buy us those extra hours. Torres turned to her. Any suggestions, Captain? You're the one who's already fought this enemy twice and survived. Elena thought quickly, drawing on everything she had learned during her previous encounters with the Thren Dominion. Admiral, when we damaged their flagship, the entire fleet's coordination fell into chaos for several crucial minutes. Their command structure appears highly centralized, dependent on clear direction from a lead vessel. You're suggesting we target their flagship again, Torres said, understanding immediately. If we can identify and disable their command ship early in the engagement, we might create enough confusion to significantly delay their coordinated assault, buying critical time for reinforcements to arrive. That's an extremely risky strategy, Captain. If we fail to disable their flagship quickly, we'll have exposed our intentions without gaining any advantage. I understand the risk, Admiral, but given our situation, I believe it's our best chance. Torres was quiet for a moment, clearly weighing the desperate options available to her. Finally, she nodded. Very well. Captain Reyes, your ship has already proven capable against this enemy. I'm authorizing the Kestrel, along with the 2 reinforcement cruisers, to form a strike team. Your objective will be identifying and disabling their flagship the moment battle begins. Understood, Admiral. We'll need every advantage we can get. Is the Prometheus array fully recharged? Yes, Captain. Full power restored during repairs. Then we have a fighting chance, Elena said, though privately she knew their odds remained grim against such overwhelming numbers. The next 2 hours passed in a blur of frantic preparation. Elena briefed her crew on the strategy, coordinated with the captains of the 2 reinforcement cruisers, the ESS Valiant and the ESS Meridian, and reviewed every scrap of intelligence gathered from previous encounters with the Thren Dominion fleet. As the alien fleet grew closer, its massive shape finally becoming visible on direct sensors, Elena stood on the Kestrel's bridge, watching the overwhelming force approach with a strange calm, born from having no other choice but to fight. Captain, Marcus said quietly, sensor analysis suggests the flagship is positioned near the center of their formation, heavily protected by escort vessels. Of course it is, Elena murmured. They learned from last time. This won't be as easy as before, Marcus warned. I know, Elena said. But we don't need easy. We just need enough. The comm channel crackled to life, and the familiar layered voice of the Thren Dominion commander filled the bridge, colder and angrier than ever before. Human vessel. You have caused significant harm to Dominion forces and wounded our respected leader. This fleet has come to ensure such insolence never occurs again. Elena stepped forward, keeping her voice steady despite the fear tightening in her chest. This is Captain Reyes. We defended ourselves against unprovoked aggression, and we will continue to do so. If you wish to avoid further losses, I suggest reconsidering this attack. Your arrogance will be your destruction, the voice snapped. Prepare to witness the true might of the Thren Dominion. The channel closed, and moments later, the massive alien fleet began its final approach, weapons charging with terrifying, overwhelming power. All ships, form defensive formation, Elena ordered over the fleet-wide channel. Valiant, Meridian, stay close. We move together, and we strike their flagship the moment we have a clear shot. Acknowledged, Kestrel, came the reply from both cruisers. The 3 human ships arranged themselves in a tight defensive triangle, stationed defense platforms adding their own considerable firepower to the coming battle. It was still an incredibly outnumbered force, 3 warships, and a station against over 100 enemy vessels, but it was more than the Kestrel alone had faced during its first desperate encounter. Enemy fleet entering weapons range, Marcus announced, tension clear in every word. Everyone, brace for impact, Elena said, gripping her chair tightly. This is it. The Thren Dominion fleet opened fire, an overwhelming wave of energy weapons that lit up the darkness of space like a terrible, beautiful storm. The station's defense platforms and the 3 human warships returned fire immediately, weapons blazing as the true battle for New Shanghai Station began in earnest. Explosions bloomed across space as the first exchanges of fire found their targets. The Kestrel's shields absorbed hit after hit, straining under the pressure, but holding thanks to the improvements made during recent repairs. Elena watched the tactical display carefully, searching desperately for any glimpse of the enemy flagship hidden somewhere within the chaotic mass of alien vessels. There, Marcus suddenly shouted, pointing to a specific cluster of ships on the display. Captain, I've identified unusual command signal patterns radiating from a ship near the fleet's center. It matches the profile of their flagship. Can we get a clear shot? Elena asked immediately. Negative, Captain. It's surrounded by at least a dozen escort vessels. We'd need to break through significant defenses first. Elena's mind raced, calculating options even as weapons fire continued to rock the Kestrel violently. Marcus, prepare Prometheus. If we can disable the shields of those escort vessels, even briefly, we might create an opening. Prometheus ready on your command, Captain. Elena took a deep breath, aware that this decision would likely determine the fate of the entire battle, and possibly the safety of New Shanghai Station itself. "Fire Prometheus," she ordered. "Target their central formation." The Kestrel's secret weapon activated once again, sending disruptive energy pulses streaking toward the tightly packed group of ships surrounding the Thren Dominion flagship. This time, however, something was different. The pulses struck their targets, but the resulting shield disruption was noticeably weaker than before. "Captain, the effect is diminished." Sarah's voice came urgently over the comm from the science station. "They've adapted their shield technology since our last encounter, just as we feared." "Damage report on target ships?" Elena demanded. "Partial shield disruption only, Captain. Not enough to create a clear opening." Elena felt a cold chill of fear settle in her chest. Their best weapon had just been significantly weakened by enemy adaptation, and the massive fleet continued its relentless assault against the vastly outnumbered defenders. "Captain," Marcus said urgently, "Valiant is taking heavy damage. Their shields just failed." On the tactical display, Elena watched in horror as the ESS Valiant, one of their two reinforcement cruisers, took a direct hit along its main hull, secondary explosions rippling across its structure as critical systems failed catastrophically. "Valiant is requesting immediate assistance," Priya reported, her voice tight with alarm. The battle for New Shanghai Station had only just begun, and already the overwhelming numbers of the Thren Dominion fleet were beginning to prove too much for the desperate defenders to withstand. Elena watched the chaos unfolding around her, searching desperately for any remaining option that might turn the tide of this seemingly impossible battle. Time was running out, and reinforcements from Earth Command were still hours away. The ESS Valiant drifted, crippled and burning, as the Thren Dominion fleet pressed its overwhelming advantage. Elena Reyes watched the tactical display with a sinking feeling, aware that the battle was slipping quickly away from the defenders of New Shanghai Station. "Meridian, cover the Valiant's crew evacuation," Elena ordered urgently. "Kestrel will continue engaging their central formation." "Acknowledged, Kestrel," came the strained reply from the Meridian's captain. "Marcus, options," Elena demanded, watching as more enemy ships pressed closer to the station's defense perimeter. "Captain, their adapted shields are holding against Prometheus, but not perfectly," Marcus said, studying his readouts intently. "The disruption effect is weaker, but not completely gone. If we concentrate multiple pulses on a single target instead of spreading them across the formation, we might achieve enough disruption to matter." "Do it," Elena said immediately. "Focus everything on their flagship's nearest escort ships. Create any opening you can." "Understood, Captain." The Kestrel adjusted its weapon systems, focusing the Prometheus array's disruptive energy into a narrower, more concentrated beam, aimed directly at the ships shielding the Thren Dominion flagship. This time, the results were more promising. Several escort vessels' shields flickered and failed under the intensified assault. "Shields down on 3 escort ships," Priya reported. "Captain, we have a partial opening toward the flagship. Marcus, rail cannons, target the flagship directly. Full power." Targeting, locked, firing. The Kestrel's rail cannons discharged with tremendous force, sending devastating projectiles streaking through the narrow gap created by the disrupted shields. The shots found their mark, striking the Thren Dominion flagship along its exposed hull sections. Bright explosions bloomed across the enemy command vessel, and for a moment, Elena allowed herself hope that they might have dealt a decisive blow. But the flagship, though damaged, remained operational, its escort ships quickly closing the gap and restoring their protective formation. "Damage assessment on flagship?" Elena asked. "Significant damage, Captain, but it's still functional and still coordinating the fleet," Priya reported. "They've learned to protect their command ship more effectively this time." Elena felt frustration mixing with rising fear. Their best strategy had only partially succeeded, and the overwhelming numbers of the enemy fleet continued to threaten complete destruction of New Shanghai Station's defenders. "Captain, the Meridian is taking heavy fire," Marcus warned. "Their shields are failing rapidly." Elena watched helplessly as the Meridian, already weakened from supporting the Valiant's evacuation, began taking severe damage from a concentrated group of enemy vessels. The battle was slipping further away with each passing moment, and Earth Command's reinforcements remained frustratingly distant. "Admiral Torres," Elena called over the emergency channel, We need those reinforcements now, or we're going to lose this station. Torres's voice came back, strained with the pressure of coordinating the desperate defense. Earth Command confirms fleet dispatch, Captain, but their arrival is still estimated at 3 hours minimum. I don't know if we can hold that long. 3 hours. It felt like an impossible distance given the rate at which their defenses were crumbling under the Dominion's relentless assault. Then, something unexpected happened. Captain, Priya said suddenly, confusion evident in her voice. I'm detecting new subspace signatures at the edge of the system. Multiple contacts. Approaching fast. Elena's heart leapt with sudden hope, quickly tempered by caution. Reinforcements arriving early? Unknown, Captain. The signatures don't match Earth Command fleet configurations. A chill ran through Elena's body. If this was another hostile force arriving to compound their already desperate situation, New Shanghai Station's defenders would have no chance of survival. Identify those contacts immediately, Elena ordered. 10 seconds passed, as sensor operators across both the Kestrel and New Shanghai Station worked frantically to analyze the approaching ships. Finally, Priya's voice returned, filled with disbelief and growing excitement. Captain, ship configurations match. Vecron Empire vessels. The bridge fell into stunned silence. The Vecron Empire, the very species that had first made contact with humanity decades ago, and with whom Earth had maintained a cautious but generally cooperative relationship ever since. Open a channel immediately, Elena ordered. Moments later, a new voice filled the comm system, deep and resonant, speaking in the careful, formal tones characteristic of Vecron diplomatic communication. Human vessel Kestrel, this is Fleet Commander Vashtar of the Vecron Empire. We received distress signals from your Earth Command regarding conflict with Thren Dominion forces. We have come to render assistance, honoring the mutual defense principles established in our existing alliance agreements. Elena felt overwhelming relief flood through her body. Commander Vashtar, this is Captain Reyes of the Kestrel. Your assistance is most welcome. We are currently outnumbered and under severe pressure from a Thren Dominion invasion fleet. We are aware of the situation, Captain Reyes. Our forces will engage immediately. On the tactical display, Elena watched as a formation of Vecron Empire warships, sleek and powerful vessels unlike anything humanity had yet produced, streaked into the battle, their weapons already targeting the surprised Thren Dominion fleet. The sudden arrival of a third party completely disrupted whatever coordination the Dominion forces had maintained throughout the battle. Ships that had been pressing their advantage against the Valiant and Meridian suddenly found themselves under attack from an entirely new direction, forcing hasty and often chaotic defensive maneuvers. Their formation is breaking apart, Marcus reported excitedly. The Vecron attack is causing massive confusion throughout their fleet. Press the advantage, Elena ordered immediately. All ships, coordinate with Vecron forces and target any Dominion vessels showing weakened defenses. The battle transformed rapidly from a desperate defensive struggle into a genuine counterattack, with Vecron reinforcements adding significant firepower and further disrupting Dominion coordination. The tide began shifting decisively in favor of the defenders. Elena watched with growing satisfaction as Dominion ship after Dominion ship fell to the combined efforts of Earth and Vecron forces. The enemy flagship, still bearing damage from earlier in the engagement, attempted to reorganize its scattered fleet, but the chaos proved too great to overcome quickly. Captain, Priya reported, the Dominion flagship is broadcasting on all frequencies. Put it through. The familiar layered voice returned, this time carrying an unmistakable note of desperation, rather than the cold confidence from earlier encounters. Human vessel Kestrel and Vecron forces. The Thren Dominion proposes immediate ceasefire. Further conflict serves no purpose given current circumstances. Elena exchanged a glance with Marcus before responding carefully.
This is Captain Reyes. We will consider ceasefire terms, but only with immediate withdrawal of all Dominion forces from this system, and formal acknowledgement of unprovoked aggression against Earth vessels and New Shanghai Station.
There was a pause, likely as the Dominion commander consulted with remaining leadership aboard the damaged flagship. Finally, the voice returned, considerably more subdued than before. Terms, acceptable. Thren Dominion forces will withdraw immediately. Agreed, Elena said. Ceasefire in effect. Slowly, the surviving Thren Dominion vessels began disengaging from the battle, retreating toward the edge of the system before activating subspace drives and disappearing entirely from New Shanghai Station's sensors. The battle, against all odds, had ended in a decisive, if costly, victory for the defenders. Cheers erupted across the Kestrel's bridge, quickly spreading throughout the entire station as news of the Dominion withdrawal reached every department. Elena allowed herself a long, exhausted breath, finally releasing tension that had been building since that first terrifying moment when the Kestrel found itself surrounded weeks ago. 3 days later, Elena stood in Admiral Torres's office, along with Fleet Commander Vashtar, who had remained at New Shanghai Station, to assist with the aftermath of the battle and discuss the implications of recent events with both Earth and Vecron leadership. "Your ship performed remarkably well, Captain Reyes," Vashtar said, his translated voice carrying genuine respect. "The Thren Dominion has long been known for underestimating younger species. It seems this proved a costly mistake on their part." "We couldn't have won without your fleet's timely arrival, Commander," Elena replied honestly. "Thank you for honoring the Alliance." "The Alliance exists precisely for situations such as this," Vashtar said. "Though I confess, even we did not expect a single human vessel to inflict such significant damage against Dominion forces during your initial encounter. Your technology and tactical thinking have impressed many within Vecron command structures." Admiral Torres leaned forward. "What are the broader implications of this incident, Commander? Should we expect further aggression from the Thren Dominion?" Vashtar considered the question carefully. The Dominion values strength and pride above most other considerations. Having suffered defeat at the hands of a species they considered inferior, they will likely reassess their approach toward humanity going forward. This could result in either genuine respect and improved diplomatic relations, or continued resentment and future attempts at retaliation. Only time will reveal which path they choose. "Either way," Elena said, "Earth needs to be prepared for both possibilities." "A wise assessment, Captain," Vashtar agreed. "I would also suggest that this incident demonstrates humanity's readiness to be considered a more significant player within galactic affairs. Few species could have survived, let alone effectively fought back, against such overwhelming initial odds." Elena felt a quiet sense of pride at these words, though she remained aware of how much had been sacrificed to achieve this outcome. The crew of the Valiant had suffered casualties during the battle's early stages, and every ship involved bore significant damage that would require extensive repairs. "What happens now?" Elena asked. Admiral Torres answered, "Earth Command is already reviewing the full details of this engagement. I expect significant changes to our defensive posture throughout this sector, including increased fleet presence and expanded cooperation with Vecron forces. Your report, along with the data gathered from the Prometheus Array's performance against Dominion shielding, will likely influence weapons development for years to come." "And the crew?" Elena asked. "They performed beyond anything I could have asked of them." "Full commendations are being processed for every member of your crew, Captain," Torres said. "Your actions, from the initial ambush through the defense of New Shanghai Station, will be studied at every Earth Space Service Academy going forward." Later that evening, Elena stood alone on an observation deck overlooking the quiet, undamaged side of New Shanghai Station, watching the stars beyond the protective dome. The battle was over, at least for now, but she understood better than most how temporary such peace often proved to be. In the vast, complicated universe, humanity had only recently begun exploring. Marcus joined her quietly, standing beside the viewport without speaking for several long moments. "Quite a first contact story to tell," he finally said. Elena allowed a tired smile. "That's one way to describe it. Do you think they'll come back, the Dominion?" Elena considered the question carefully. "Maybe. Maybe not directly at least. But I think word of what happened here will spread, one way or another. Other species will hear about a small, primitive human ship that stood against 43 warships and survived, that fought off a 100-ship invasion fleet with nothing but grit, clever engineering, and timely allies. And what do you think they'll take from that story?" Elena looked out at the stars, thinking of Earth, spinning quietly far away, its people mostly unaware of just how close disaster had come, and how narrowly it had been averted. "I think they'll learn that humanity, however young, however inexperienced compared to older civilizations out here, is not something to be underestimated." Marcus nodded slowly. The Kestrel becomes a legend then. The Kestrel becomes a warning, Elena corrected gently. A warning that Earth may be new to this galaxy, but we're not going anywhere, and we're not something anyone should assume they can push around. Below them, in the station's repair bays, engineers continued their work restoring the Kestrel to full operational status, preparing the ship for whatever challenges might come next in humanity's ongoing journey among the stars. The battle had ended, but Elena knew, deep down, that this was merely one chapter in a much longer story, one where humanity's place among the galaxy's older, more established powers was still being written, one difficult, hard-won victory at a time. As the ship's repairs neared completion and news of the battle spread slowly across known space, one truth became increasingly clear to every species who heard the story. Earth's warships, however small, however young in the grand scale of galactic history, were not to be surrounded lightly, and were certainly not to be underestimated when they finally opened fire.